I always believed peace had a face, and for me it was Lena. When she smiled, the world seemed to pause, like everything that had ever gone wrong suddenly made sense. I never realized how much a person could anchor your life until I met her. She wasn't perfect, not that perfection mattered, but her presence was a balm I didn't know I needed. I thought I had found my home, not in a place but in her. "Elias, breakfast's getting cold," my sister Mia shouted from the kitchen, dragging me out of my thoughts. "I'm coming," I replied, still staring at the way the morning sunlight hit Lena's hair as she sat at the table sipping coffee. Her quiet smile made me forget that the toast was burning. Mia rolled her eyes. "You're so whipped, you know that?" she teased, nudging my shoulder. "It's like Lena hypnotized you." I laughed, shaking my head. "I'm not hypnotized. I feel like everything makes sense with her around." Aaron, my best friend since childhood, leaned against the doorframe. Yeah, enough with the poetic crap. You've been saying that since last week. You're going to make her think she's a goddess or something." "She's not a goddess," I said, though my voice faltered slightly. "She's the reason I feel calm. She's a home." Aaron chuckled, not hiding the smirk. "Home, huh? Better not move in yet, or she'll have you buying scented candles and discussing your feelings every other hour." "I like scented candles," I muttered, realizing how ridiculous I sounded even to myself. Lena smiled at me and the room seemed warmer. "And I like us. I like how we fit." Good. "But don't let her know you're this soft," Aaron said. "I'm serious. She might leave you if you turn into a puddle." I smiled awkwardly. "I'm not a puddle." Lena laughed, a sound that always made my chest feel lighter. She reached for my hand across the table. "You're not," she said softly, brushing her thumb across my knuckles. "You're you. That's what I like." I squeezed her hand back. "And I like you." The words felt insufficient, like they could never capture how I truly felt. I didn't care. Saying them aloud still made my heart race. Later, when my parents joined us for brunch, the house felt complete. They adored Lena, praising her endlessly. "She's wonderful, Elias," my mother said, pouring coffee into her cup. "I couldn't imagine anyone better for you." "She makes you happy," my father added. "That's what matters." I nodded, agreeing silently. Everything was perfect, or at least I thought it was. Over the next few days, I began to notice small things. Lena seemed distracted at dinner, staring at her phone more than usual. She laughed less freely and her smiles were tighter, shorter. I brushed it off at first. Maybe she was stressed. Maybe it was nothing. One evening, I asked her gently, "Hey, is something bothering you?" She looked up, forcing a smile. "I'm just tired," she said. Her eyes didn't quite meet mine. "Work's been a lot." "I can help," I offered. "Anything you need, just tell me." She shook her head. "No, really. I've got it. Don't worry about me." Her voice sounded heavier than usual, but I nodded, choosing to believe her. I told myself that love could fix anything. I told myself that her silence wasn't distance, just a passing cloud. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling. Something felt off. A quiet fear stirred in my chest, subtle but insistent. I forced it down, telling myself I was imagining things. Love was supposed to be calm. It was supposed to feel like Lena made the chaos of life make sense. This unease didn't belong. The next day I tried to focus on work. Aaron texted me, teasing as always. "How's my favorite softie?" I laughed silently, typing back, "Better now that I saw her smile this morning." He replied almost instantly, "Careful, man. You're getting too sappy. She'll get used to it and leave you hanging." I ignored him, smiling anyway. Aaron's warnings always carried half-jokes, half-truths, but today I didn't feel like arguing. My mind kept drifting back to Lena. The way she had brushed my hand that morning, the way her hair caught the sunlight. Mia barged into my thoughts as she always did. "You're daydreaming again," she said. "It's embarrassing. Focus on something real like your essay." I grinned. "She is real, Mia. She's very real." "You mean unrealistically perfect in your head," she said, shaking her head. "Don't let her make you too soft, Elias. Life's messy. People aren't always calm and nice." I opened my mouth to reply but stopped. Mia had a point. Maybe this was exactly why I held her in such a high place in my mind. Maybe I was too soft. But I didn't care. Lena's presence was like gravity and I had fallen willingly. Over the next week, her distant moments increased. Texts went unanswered longer. She smiled less when we were alone. Her laughter didn't reach her eyes. I started asking myself questions I didn't want to face. "Are you happy?" I asked one evening while we walked through the park near our apartment. "I'm fine," she said quickly. "Really? Don't worry about me." Her hand slipped from mine for just a moment and I noticed it. My chest tightened. The fear returned louder this time. I forced a smile, saying, "Okay. If you're sure." Deep down, though, I couldn't shake the feeling that the storm had already begun. I told myself I was overthinking, that love could fix everything. But the truth was that something inside me had shifted. Later that night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling again. The apartment was silent except for the soft hum of the city outside. I remembered every smile Lena had given me, every quiet moment we had shared. And yet, that creeping unease refused to leave. Aaron called me just before midnight. "You sound off, man. Talk to me." "I'm fine," I muttered. "Just tired." "Yeah, sure," he said. His voice carried the usual teasing tone, but there was concern underneath. "Just don't let her ghost you emotionally, okay? I've seen that happen before. People hide things, man. You need to watch for it." "I know," I said, though the words rang hollow. I didn't know. The next morning, Lena kissed me quickly before work. "Have a good day, Elias," she said. Her eyes were warm again, but I noticed a flicker, tiny, fleeting, that made me hesitate before believing it fully. "I will," I said, holding her hand longer than usual. "You too." She smiled softly, letting go quickly. "I'm glad we're together," she said, almost a whisper. Her words should have comforted me, but instead they left a residue of doubt. I clung to the idea that love could fix anything, but my mind was quietly preparing for the storm I didn't yet understand. For now, I told myself it was just a rough patch. Lena would come back to me fully. Everything would be fine. Love could heal what I couldn't see. But deep inside, I knew I couldn't ignore the quiet fear anymore. The calm that had always been my life with Lena was starting to ripple. And I didn't yet know whether it would settle or break. I had spent the entire day rehearsing the moment I'd see her. Lena. My Lena. I imagined her smile, the warmth in her eyes, the way her hand would reach for mine. I thought about surprising her with flowers, telling her how much I loved her, reminding her why we belonged together. My heart raced as I held the bouquet in my hands, each step toward her apartment building feeling lighter, as if love itself was carrying me. When I reached her door, I knocked gently, letting the moment stretch for just a heartbeat. No answer. I knocked again, firmer this time. Still nothing. My brow furrowed. The door was slightly ajar. "Lena?" I whispered. I stepped inside. The apartment smelled faintly of her perfume, the scent that used to feel like home. And then I froze. She was on the couch. Not alone. Ryan. Her ex. The man she had sworn she never wanted back. He was there and she was there, leaning toward him, her lips almost brushing his. Their voices were low, intimate, familiar in a way that made my chest tighten. "I missed you," Lena whispered. I felt my knees go weak. The flowers slipped from my hands, hitting the floor with a soft thud. My heart shattered inside me. Ryan turned slowly. His smirk was cruel, knowing, like he had been waiting for this moment. "Elias," Lena gasped, jumping up. Her eyes widened, searching, desperate. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. My voice was gone, swallowed by a wave of disbelief and pain. "How long?" I finally managed, my words trembling. Her eyes filled with tears. She didn't deny it. She just looked at me, broken and guilty. I didn't mean for it to happen like this," she stammered. I shook my head, unable to let her finish. "How long?" I repeated, louder this time, my voice cracking. A few weeks," she admitted, barely audible. "I'm so sorry, Elias." A few weeks. Weeks in which I had been thinking I was loved, trusted, and cherished. Weeks in which she had been with him. I wanted to scream, to cry, to destroy something, but I felt paralyzed. My body refused to obey me. Ryan leaned back, smirking again. "Looks like you finally caught on, huh?" I wanted to hit him. I wanted to pull Lena toward me and make her see the devastation she had caused. But I couldn't. All I could do was stand there, frozen, feeling as if the ground had disappeared beneath my feet. "Elias." Lena started again, reaching out, but I stepped back. "Don't," I whispered. The word was soft, barely a sound, but it carried the weight of everything I felt. "Don't touch me." Her tears fell freely now. "I didn't want it to hurt you. I didn't." "It doesn't matter," I said, my voice empty. "It already does. It already hurts. I trusted you. I thought we had something real." Ryan laughed quietly, shaking his head. "Real? You mean that little fantasy you lived in while we had real fun?" I felt my stomach twist. Fury. Betrayal. The world spinning uncontrollably. I couldn't look at him anymore. I turned and walked out. I didn't even glance at Lena as I left. I didn't want to see her face, her eyes begging, her lips moving in apology. Outside, I pressed my back against the wall of the building. The flowers lay crushed in the hallway. My chest ached as if someone had ripped it apart and left it bleeding. I tried to breathe. I tried to think. But my mind was a fog of disbelief. I called Aaron, needing someone. Needing anything. Eli? You okay? His voice sounded distant, like I was underwater. I don't know, I said, my voice hollow. I saw her. With him. They. Aaron was quiet for a moment. Wait, what do you mean? She's with Ryan, I choked out. They're together. She. What? Lena? No, that can't be real. It is, I whispered. I saw them. You need to calm down, man. Breathe. Where are you? I told him the street outside her building. He said he'd be there in 5 minutes. I sank to the curb, my hands on my face, trying not to scream. Trying not to feel. But the pain surged anyway, relentless and unforgiving. When Aaron arrived, he crouched beside me. Eli. I didn't know. His voice was soft, careful. I'm sorry. She lied to me, Aaron, I said, my voice breaking. She told me everything was fine. She. I know, he said. I didn't want to tell you, but she came to me too before it. She said she was confused and I didn't know what to say. Confused? I spat, incredulous. Confused? Confused as lying to me for weeks while she's with him? Aaron swallowed. I know, man. I know. I shook my head. I trusted her. I loved her. I thought she loved me. I know, he repeated. I know. And I'm here. I won't let you go through this alone. I nodded silently, but the tears wouldn't come. My chest ached too much for tears. I felt empty. Hollow. Numb. Later, at home, my parents tried to talk to me. My mother touched my shoulder, eyes full of concern. Elias, honey, what happened? I can't talk about it, I whispered, avoiding their eyes. My father placed a hand on my back. Son, whatever it is, you can tell us. We're here. I know, I said, my voice barely audible. I just need time. The night stretched endlessly. I lay in my room staring at the ceiling. The apartment was silent except for the ticking clock and my own shallow breaths. I kept replaying the moment, Lena on the couch, Ryan smirking, her eyes wide with guilt. Why wasn't I enough? The question gnawed at me, relentless. Why hadn't she chosen me? Why had she gone back to him? What was wrong with me? I could feel the anger building, but it was laced with something darker, hurt so deep I couldn't yet name it. I thought about all the little things she had done recently, the distracted looks, the forced smiles, the subtle distance. The signs had been there, but I hadn't seen them. Or maybe I didn't want to. My heart had been too invested to notice the cracks forming under the surface. I whispered to myself, barely moving my lips, why wasn't I enough? The words echoed in the room, bouncing off the walls, filling every corner with their weight. Aaron tried calling again, but I didn't answer. My parents knocked lightly on my door, voices gentle, asking if I was okay. I couldn't respond. The numbness had taken over, a fog that wouldn't lift. I stared at the ceiling, at the small cracks in the paint, at the shadows that stretched across the room. Everything felt unreal, as if I were trapped in someone else's nightmare. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. I wanted to wake up and find this had all been a horrible dream. But it wasn't. The flowers still lay crushed in the hallway. Ryan's smirk was burned into my mind. Lena's tearful eyes, her whispered apology, her confession, everything was real. And I was left with nothing but the question that would haunt me for weeks, months, perhaps years. Why wasn't I enough? I woke to the sound of my own breathing, shallow and ragged. The sun had already moved across the sky, but I hadn't stirred from my bed. My stomach ached from hunger I refused to acknowledge. Every time I thought about moving, about eating, about existing beyond the four walls of my room, my mind looped back to her, Lena. Her laugh, her smile, the way she whispered my name. All of it now twisted into knives that cut deeper with every thought. A knock at my door startled me. Eli. Please, Mia's voice trembled through the wood. Talk to me. Just a little. I didn't respond. My head pressed harder against the pillow. I'm not leaving until you answer, she said firmly, the kind of resolve only a sister could summon. I hate seeing you like this. I'm fine, I croaked, though the sound was more a lie than a word. My throat felt raw, my voice brittle. You're not fine, she shot back. I know you're not fine. Please just come out for a second. Please. I stayed silent. My body felt heavy, trapped under an invisible weight. Every muscle refused to obey. Later my father knocked gently. "Elias," he called. "Can we talk?" I wanted to tell him to leave me alone, but the sound of his voice, steady, patient, made me hesitate. He entered cautiously, eyes scanning the room, and sat on the edge of my bed. "Honey, pain builds stronger men," he said softly. "You're hurting now, but one day you'll see it made you better. Stronger." I laughed bitterly, more a sound of anguish than amusement. Stronger? I feel weaker than ever. Everything I do reminds me of her. Her laugh, her touch, her stupid smile. I can't escape it. "I know, son," he replied. "I know. But time heals. It always does. You'll see a day when it won't feel like this." "Time?" I whispered, voice hoarse. "Time doesn't bring her back. Time doesn't fix betrayal. Time doesn't undo the humiliation." He reached out and placed a hand over mine. "No, it doesn't. But it gives you a chance to rebuild. A chance to be better than before." I shook my head and buried my face in my hands. I can't think about rebuilding. I can barely think about breathing without feeling like someone ripped my chest out. Days blurred into nights and nights bled into days. I stopped eating, barely slept, and locked myself away. Mia persisted. She'd sit outside my door, whispering, knocking, offering snacks, but I refused. Her presence was both comforting and unbearable, a reminder that life continued while mine had shattered. One afternoon, as I lay on the bed staring at the ceiling, I heard footsteps outside my dorm. "Emily, Aaron's girlfriend. Elias." Her voice was soft, hesitant. "Are you okay?" I didn't respond. My silence was my shield. She shifted closer. I know you're hurt. And I know you don't want to talk. But you need to ask Aaron something. Something important." I blinked, confused. What do you mean?" Her eyes were sincere, almost pleading. You'll know when the moment comes. You can't let this sit inside you forever. Trust me." I didn't answer. I barely registered her words, but something small sparked inside me. A flicker I hadn't felt in days, a notion that maybe I didn't have to remain a broken man forever. Rumors had started circulating on campus, whispers carried by voices that seemed to follow me wherever I went. Lena and Ryan were officially back together. I heard it in the cafeteria, on the lawn, in the dorm halls. Every time I caught a glance, people looked at me with that faint, cruel curiosity. I felt humiliated, as if the world was laughing silently at my pain. One evening, I sat alone on the steps outside, hands gripping my knees. The sky was painted with streaks of orange and pink, the kind of sunset Lena would have loved. I wanted to scream at the sky, at her, at Ryan, at Aaron. But the words lodged in my throat. "You shouldn't stay here alone," a voice said softly. It was Emily again. She sat beside me, keeping her distance but close enough to feel present. "Pain? It doesn't vanish by itself. You need to face it somehow." "I can't," I whispered. My voice cracked. "Everything reminds me of her. Everything hurts. I don't know how to survive this." "You will," she said quietly, firmly. "But you have to make a choice. Sit in the darkness or step into the light, even if it's just a little." I didn't answer immediately. I looked at her, at the determination in her eyes, at the calm in her voice. For the first time since the betrayal, I felt a small tug toward something other than despair. "Ask him," she said finally. "Ask Aaron. Whatever it is you need to know, ask him. Don't wait. Don't let it fester." I swallowed hard, heart hammering. What if it destroys everything? "Then it was meant to be destroyed," she replied. "But at least you'll know the truth. At least you won't be trapped in lies anymore." Her words lingered as I watched her walk away, her figure retreating into the shadows of the campus. The weight on my chest didn't vanish, but something shifted. Not strength. Not even clarity. Just a spark. A tiny flicker of defiance that told me I couldn't stay broken forever. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The memories of Lena still clawed at me, but they were accompanied by a strange new thought. I could survive this. I didn't know how yet, didn't know if I would forgive, didn't know if I would heal. But I felt something stirring inside, a whisper that life was more than pain, more than betrayal, more than humiliation. I closed my eyes and whispered to myself, barely audibly, "I can't stay broken forever." The words were weak, fragile, but they were mine. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, I sensed the faint outline of a path forward. Not away from the pain entirely, never that, but through it. Somewhere deep inside, the spark glimmered. A spark that would grow. A spark that might one day turn into fire. And for the first time in weeks, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, I would find my way out of this darkness. I found Aaron at our usual spot by the old oak tree near campus. He was leaning against the trunk, arms crossed, pretending the world didn't exist. My stomach churned as I approached him, fists tight. "Aaron," I said, voice low but hard. "We need to talk." He looked up, forcing a smile. "Eli, hey. What's up?" "Cut the act," I said, stepping closer. "You know exactly why I'm here." He shrugged, still trying to look casual. "I'm not sure I do. Care to explain?" "I'm not here to ask politely," I hissed. "Emily told me something. Something important. You're not walking away from this." Aaron's smile faltered. "Emily? What did she say?" "You know what she said," I snapped. "Don't lie to me." He took a step back, clearly realizing I wasn't bluffing. "Elias, I don't know what you think I did, but—" "Stop," I yelled. "I won't hear your excuses. You told Lena she deserved better than me. You gave her the words that crushed me from the inside out. How could you?" Aaron's eyes widened. "Eli, wait. I didn't mean—" "Didn't mean?" I echoed, voice shaking with anger and disbelief. "You helped destroy my life. My trust, my love, everything. Did you even consider how that would feel? Or did you just think you were being smart?" She came to me confused," he stammered, voice dropping. "She didn't know what she wanted. I told her. I told her she deserved better than you because I thought it might help her figure things out. I didn't want her hurting herself or you." I laughed bitterly, a dry, hollow sound. "Hurting me? Aaron, you were the knife in my chest. You were supposed to be my best friend. My brother. Not the one helping her walk away from me." "I thought I was helping," he whispered, voice barely audible. I thought I was doing the right thing." "The right thing," I repeated, stepping closer, fists trembling. "You lied to me. You lied to both of us. You sided with her over me. Over our friendship. How can you call that right?" Aaron's head dropped. I made a mistake. I didn't see it clearly." "Save it," I said, my voice low and final. "I don't want to hear apologies. I don't want to hear excuses. I trusted you. And you buried the knife in my chest yourself." He looked at me, tears forming in his eyes. "Eli, please. I never meant to hurt you. I thought—" "You thought wrong?" I cut him off. "Completely wrong. Do you know what it feels like to watch the person you love slip away? And to know the one person you trusted most is the one pushing them out of your life?" "I'm sorry," he said again, voice breaking. "I swear I'm sorry." I shook my head, stepping back. "Sorry doesn't fix this. Sorry doesn't rebuild trust. Sorry doesn't erase what happened. I need space. I need distance. And right now, I need my life back." He reached out as if to grab my arm, but I didn't let him. "Please, Elias. Just understand. I didn't want this. I wanted to protect everyone." I turned my back without a word, walking away with my chest tight, every step heavy. My mind raced, my heart pounded, and my hands shook. The betrayal from Lena had burned, but this was something else. This was the person I trusted more than anyone, choosing her over me. Choosing her over our friendship. I walked aimlessly through the campus, each step echoing in my ears. The night air was cool against my skin, but it did nothing to calm the storm inside me. I felt hollow, shattered, and utterly alone. Eventually, I ended up sitting on the edge of the fountain near the library, staring at the rippling water. My reflection was distorted, my eyes bloodshot, my face tight with anger and grief. I didn't move, didn't speak, just sat there letting the silence wrap around me. "Elias." A voice called, gentle and authoritative. I turned to see Dr. Collins, my research professor, standing a few feet away. His presence was calm, almost grounding, in a way I hadn't felt in weeks. "Professor," I said, voice hoarse. I'm fine." "You're not fine," he said, walking closer. "I've seen the way you've been wandering, the way you've been avoiding work. You're wasting your potential, Elias. This isn't who you are." I looked down, ashamed, unable to meet his eyes. I've been distracted," I admitted softly. "Things happened." He crouched slightly beside me. I know what's weighing on you. But you can't let it consume you. You're too talented, too smart, too capable to sit here and let life pass by." I felt a lump in my throat. His words were simple, but they carried weight. For the first time since the betrayal, I felt someone saw me, not just the broken pieces but the man beneath them. I don't know if I can," I whispered, doubt thick in my voice. "You can," he said firmly. "And I want to help. I'm offering you a position as my research assistant. It's a chance to focus on something that matters, something that will help you grow. You'll have responsibilities, tasks, challenges, and I think you'll find it gives you purpose again. I blinked, heart thudding against my chest. A research assistant? Yes, he said with a small, encouraging smile. It's work. Hard work. But it will help you rebuild. It won't erase your pain, Elias, but it will give you something to hold on to. Something to fight for. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to say no, wanted to stay in the darkness and let the anger fester. But another part, a small, stubborn spark, wanted to try. To step forward even if just a little. I'll do it, I said finally, voice trembling with a mixture of fear and hope. Good, he said, standing and placing a hand on my shoulder. That's the first step. The rest is up to you. Remember, Elias, strength isn't about never breaking. It's about what you do after you do. I nodded, taking a deep breath. For the first time in weeks, I felt something shift inside me. It wasn't strength yet. Not even confidence. Just a glimmer of determination, a whisper that I could move forward, even if it was one tiny step at a time. As Dr. Collins walked away, leaving me with the quiet hum of campus life, I looked at the fountain, the water reflecting the streetlights. My reflection was still fragmented, eyes red from sleepless nights and tears I hadn't shed, but the spark was there. I clenched my fists, letting the anger and pain fuel something new. Not vengeance, not bitterness, but a drive to reclaim myself. To prove, not to Lena, not to Aaron, not to anyone, but to myself that I could rise from this, stronger, smarter, and in control. I whispered to the night, voice low but resolute, I won't stay broken. Not anymore. The betrayal had cut me deep, but for the first time, I felt the first stitch of something stronger forming inside me. And it terrified me in a way that felt exhilarating. For the first time in weeks, I saw a path forward. Not easy, not pain-free, but mine. And for the first time, I wanted to walk it. The morning air smelled faintly of coffee and wet pavement as I walked into Dr. Collins's lab. The hum of machines and soft clatter of papers felt almost comforting, a stark contrast to the chaos of the past weeks. I didn't notice the time passing. Everything was precise, structured, and for the first time, predictable. Good morning, Elias, Dr. Collins said without looking up from his notes. Ready for another long day? As ready as I'll ever be, I muttered, slipping on my lab coat. You've been more focused lately, he observed, glancing up at me. Keep it up. I see potential here. Don't waste it. I nodded, though inside the words felt heavier than I expected. Potential. Not perfect. Not happy. Potential. But it was something. Something I could grab onto. I spent the next few hours organizing samples, logging data, and following protocols. It was exhausting, but the exhaustion was different from heartbreak. It was purposeful. My mind didn't wander to Lena's smile or Ryan's smug grin. It only registered numbers, measurements, and patterns. Elias? A soft voice interrupted my concentration. I looked up to see a young woman standing beside me, clipboard in hand. She had curly brown hair pulled into a loose ponytail, and her green eyes held an unusual mix of curiosity and warmth. Yes, I said cautiously, unsure if I wanted conversation. I'm Julia Gray, she said, extending a hand. I'm on the research team too. I thought I'd introduce myself. Don't worry, I don't bite. I hesitated, then shook her hand. Elias. Nice to meet you. You're new, she observed, tilting her head. Dr. Collins hasn't mentioned much about you, but I can tell you've got focus. That's good. We need people like that. I shrugged. I just want to learn. That's a good start, she said with a smile. It was simple, genuine, and for some reason, it felt like a little balm to my raw nerves. I didn't know why, but I wanted to tell her I wasn't just learning about research. I was trying to relearn myself. But I stayed silent. Days passed in a blur of lab work, and I noticed something shifting inside me. I laughed once at a small joke Julia made while we organized the reagents. I caught myself thinking about work instead of Lena. One evening, Mia popped her head into my room while I was reviewing data. Elias, she said, voice teasing, you should see the texts from your favorite ex. Lena and Ryan are already fighting. I froze, clipboard shaking in my hand. Fighting? I asked, though I tried not to let it show that it affected me at all. Oh yes, she said, smirking. Apparently the perfect couple isn't so perfect after all. Karma maybe? I laughed, a little bitter, but it was controlled this time. Karma, I muttered. The word felt satisfying, like a small closure I didn't know I needed. I said nothing more though. I didn't want to appear invested, even if a tiny part of me felt a quiet vindication. The nights grew longer and the lab lights stayed on late. Julia always stayed to finish her own experiments, and often we ended up cleaning up together in silence. Her quiet presence was strangely comforting. One evening, after we finished recording the data, she leaned against the counter, eyes studying me. "You're quiet," she said softly. "Is everything okay?" I shook my head. "I'm fine," I replied automatically. But I could feel her watching, understanding without pressing. "You don't see it, Elias," she said gently, voice low and sincere. "But you're growing. You're changing." Her words hit me differently than anyone else has ever had. Not a judgment, not a pitying glance, not a lecture. Just observation, and somehow it carried truth. "Growing, changing," I whispered to myself, almost afraid to say it out loud. She smiled. "Yes, I see it. You're not the same broken man from weeks ago. You're here. You're trying. That counts for a lot." I swallowed hard. "Trying?" I echoed. It felt fragile but real. The spark in me grew, tentative like sunlight through clouds. For the first time, I allowed myself a small smile. It wasn't the forced one for my parents or the desperate one I had tried for Lena. It was mine, faint but alive. Julia noticed. "See," she said almost playfully. "That's the face of someone finding themselves again." I laughed quietly, a sound I hadn't heard in days, maybe weeks. "It feels strange," I admitted. "Like I'm learning how to breathe again." "That's what it is," she said. "You're taking your first real breaths after something heavy tried to crush you. Don't rush it. It's okay to take small steps." The truth of her words settled into me. I didn't need to rush. I didn't need to prove anything to anyone. Lena's betrayal, Aaron's deceit, it didn't have to define me. Not if I didn't let it. In the following days, our interactions became routine, not forced. Julia would offer quiet encouragement. A nod, a smile, a short word when I seemed lost in thought. I never confided in her, not yet, but I felt the weight inside me lighten, imperceptibly but unmistakably. One afternoon, as we organized a set of microscope slides, she looked at me with a gentle seriousness. "Elias, don't fight it. You're changing for the better. I can see it even if you can't yet." I paused, letting her words sink in. "You really think so?" I asked quietly. "Yes," she said, voice soft but firm. "I've seen it. You're building strength inside you that will last longer than any heartbreak or betrayal. Keep going." Her confidence in me made me feel stronger than I expected. Not invincible, not healed completely, but alive. That evening, I found myself sitting in my small apartment, reviewing the data I had collected, but my mind wasn't consumed by the past anymore. It wandered only slightly to Lena and Ryan, and even then the anger was muted. I realized I no longer wanted revenge or pity. I wanted growth. Mia came in again, leaning casually against the doorframe. "You've changed, Elias," she observed, almost like she was confirming something I hadn't yet accepted. "Have I?" I asked, genuinely unsure. "Yes," she said with certainty. "I can tell. Lena's gone, Ryan's a jerk, and you're still here. Smarter, calmer, stronger." Her words made me smile again, small and real. "Maybe," I said quietly. The truth was starting to feel tangible. I was becoming someone different, someone I could be proud of. Julia's earlier words echoed in my mind. "You're growing. You're changing." I whispered them to myself, a quiet mantra that settled in my chest. I could feel it, the first stirrings of something solid, something resilient forming inside me. For the first time since everything fell apart, I felt like I could look forward. Not blindly, not naively, but with cautious hope. I wasn't whole yet. I wasn't healed fully. But I was moving. And that was enough. The day started like any other, with the hum of machines and the faint scent of coffee in the lab. I was carefully adjusting the microscope lens when I noticed movement outside the window. A figure was standing near the entrance, shifting uncomfortably in the sunlight. My heart skipped a beat even before I recognized her. "Lena?" I whispered, though the sound barely left my lips. She looked different. Not the woman who had filled my life with laughter and warmth, but exhausted, worn, broken. Her hair was pulled into a loose bun, strands falling messily around her face, eyes red and swollen. I tried to make myself look busy, hoping she would pass, but she didn't move. I sighed and stepped out. "Lena, what are you doing here?" My voice sounded steadier than I felt. I needed to see you," she said, her voice trembling. "I made a mistake, Elias. A huge mistake." I felt a pang, a familiar ache in my chest, but I held it down. "A mistake?" I asked cautiously. "Explain." Her hands shook as she clutched the strap of her bag. "Ryan, he cheated on me. He left. I realized I don't want to lose you. I need you. I made the worst decision ever. The old pain surged, sharp and consuming, but I resisted. Something inside me had shifted. I could feel it, the spark of strength I'd built over months under Dr. Collins and Julia. I could acknowledge her suffering without letting it swallow me. I can't, Lena, I said slowly. I can't pretend what happened didn't hurt me. You made your choice. Her eyes filled with tears. But Elias, I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted. Aaron, he told me to follow my heart. I didn't mean to hurt you. I clenched my jaw. The betrayal from Aaron still stung, but I refused to let it control me. You both made choices that left me behind. That's reality. I can't change that. She stepped closer, voice breaking. Please, just one chance. One chance to fix this. I've been a fool. I stayed silent. I couldn't deny the pain, the memories of nights spent hoping for her smile, the promises she had made and shattered. But I also couldn't let her manipulate me with her remorse. Later that afternoon, I walked past the lab doorway and nearly collided with Aaron. Elias, he said hesitantly, can we talk? I didn't stop. I didn't even glance at him. Not now, I muttered and continued walking. The anger that used to consume me had softened into something colder, indifference. His betrayal no longer had the power to unravel me. Julia noticed my silence during the next experiment session. She adjusted a few slides and then spoke softly. Elias, are you okay? You seem distant. I looked at her, meeting her steady green eyes, and for the first time in months, I felt clarity. I think I am, I admitted quietly. I'm finally starting to feel stable. She nodded, a faint smile tugging at her lips. Good. You've earned it. I continued my work, the repetitive motions of pipetting and observing samples grounding me. Lena's voice still haunted me in memory, but the pull that once dragged me into despair was gone. I could observe her pain without letting it penetrate me. That evening my phone buzzed. Lena had sent a message. Elias, please. I need you. Don't shut me out completely. I stared at it for a long moment. The instinct to respond was there, faint but familiar, yet I didn't. Not this time. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, then withdrew. She had her chance and had squandered it. I no longer needed to fix what was broken. Mia called later, teasing. She's texting again, huh? Yeah, I replied quietly, more to myself than to her. She's hurting, but it's not my problem anymore. Mia tilted her head, observing me. You've changed, Elias. I see it. You're not the same guy she left behind. You're stronger. I felt a faint warmth in my chest, a flicker of pride. I've been trying, I said, voice steady. Days passed and Lena continued messaging, each one a small reminder of what had been. But I remained distant, detached. Watching her spiral, I felt a complex mix of emotions, remorse that she was suffering, but also satisfaction that justice had found a way to balance the scales. Aaron tried again to approach me in the campus courtyard. Elias, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Please talk to me. I looked at him and for the first time I felt no anger, no pain, only recognition. I don't need your apologies, Aaron. You did what you thought was right. I'm moving forward. That's all that matters. He sighed, shoulders heavy, and stepped back. I turned away without a word, walking toward the lab and the stability it offered me. Julia caught up to me later, carrying a stack of notes. You're handling this better than I thought you would, she said quietly. I can tell. You're not letting it control you. I smiled faintly. It's strange, but it feels good. I'm not lost anymore. She nodded. Exactly. That's what matters. You're reclaiming yourself. I spent the rest of the day immersed in work, the familiar rhythms of research keeping my thoughts occupied. Each measurement, each careful observation grounded me further. I was learning to exist without her presence dominating my mind. That evening I received another message from Lena. I wish I could take it back. Please, Elias, I need you. I stared at it silently, breathing in and out slowly. I didn't respond. The pull I once felt, the desperate need to comfort, to forgive, to hope, was gone. Instead, a calm satisfaction settled over me. She had chosen her path and I had chosen mine. Walking home later, I reflected on the past weeks. The storm of betrayal, the nights of despair, the small victories of moving forward, it all felt like a test I was finally passing. I had faced the ghosts of my past and I had survived. Mia joined me as I reached the apartment. She glanced at my phone and then at me. You're okay, she said simply. Yes, I replied, a quiet certainty in my voice. I think I really am. I placed my keys on the table and sat for a moment, letting the quiet wrap around me. Lena's messages continued, persistent and pleading, but I felt nothing but resolve. Her downfall was hers to endure, and I had no part in it anymore. The phone buzzed again. I ignored it, knowing the power I once gave her no longer existed. Watching her stumble, seeing the consequences of her choices unfold, that was enough. Not vengeance, not malice, just natural balance. Julia sent me a brief message later, checking if I was okay. I replied with one word: yes. It felt complete. For the first time in weeks, I slept without nightmares. I dreamed of normal things: sunlight on the lab counter, laughter shared between colleagues, quiet evenings with Mia. Lena's face appeared only briefly, and I felt no longing, no pain. Only acceptance. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet strength began to grow. A realization that my life was mine to control, that no betrayal, no heartbreak, no lingering shadow could stop me from moving forward. I didn't feel victorious yet. That would come later. For now, I simply felt free. And that was enough. I arrived at the small cafe a few minutes early, my hands tucked deep into my jacket pockets. The autumn wind whipped across the street, carrying the faint scent of wet leaves and coffee. I sat at a corner table, trying to steady my pulse. I didn't want this meeting to happen, but I needed closure. Not to fix what was broken, not to forgive her, not to return to the past, but to finally end the story Lena had been dragging across my chest for months. The bell above the cafe door jingled, and she appeared. Lena. My heart skipped in an involuntary reaction, but I pushed it down. She looked fragile, her eyes rimmed with red, hair slightly disheveled, yet still the woman I had loved so completely. Elias, she whispered, almost trembling. Hi, Lena, I said softly. My voice carried no warmth, only calm. She sank into the seat across from me, biting her lip as though she were trying to stop the words she needed to say. I'm sorry. I ruined everything. I don't even know how to start saying sorry enough. I studied her, the way her hands twisted nervously in her lap. You don't need to say it anymore, I said quietly. I know. Tears pooled in her eyes, and she reached for my hand. I felt the old pull, the desire to comfort, to let her in, but I stopped it before it had the chance. My hand stayed firmly on the table, away from hers. I don't hate you, Lena, I said, my voice low but steady. But I don't belong with you anymore. Her face crumpled in disbelief. You can't mean that. Is there not even a small chance? Just one chance to fix it? I shook my head, slow, deliberate. No. I can't go back, Lena. Not to what we had. Not to the person I was when you left me broken. She swallowed hard, tears spilling over now. So, this is really it? There's nothing left between us. Yes, I said, the word firm but free of anger. I've let go of the hurt, but I've also let go of you. Her hands fell to the table, trembling. I thought I'd have a chance to make it right. You had your chance, I said softly, watching her struggle with the weight of the truth. But I've realized something important, Lena. You didn't break me. You shaped me. You were a chapter, not the whole story. She stared at me, eyes wide, trying to understand, trying to grasp the finality in my voice. I don't know how to live with this, she admitted. I thought if I apologized, if I begged, if I tried, maybe what? I asked gently. Maybe you'd forgive me and we'd go back to the way we were, she whispered. I shook my head again. Not the way we were. That person, that man, he's gone. I can't go back to being him. I'm moving forward. And you have to do the same. Her body sagged into the chair, a mixture of relief and heartbreak washing over her. So this is goodbye? She asked, barely above a whisper. I nodded. Yes, goodbye, Lena. Her lips trembled, and for a moment I saw the girl I loved, the one who had made my heart feel at home. But she was gone now, replaced by someone who had made choices that left me behind. She stood slowly, looking at me as though searching for some last sign of connection, some final thread she could pull. Elias, will I ever matter to you again? You already mattered, I said. But not in the way you want. Not in the way we had. Her head dropped and she took a step toward the door, then paused, turning back. Her eyes pleaded silently, hoping, begging. I didn't move. I didn't say a word. She exhaled sharply, finally walking toward the exit. Each step felt deliberate, as though she were dragging the weight of our past behind her. She paused again, glancing over her shoulder, as though waiting for me to call her back. But I didn't. The cafe fell silent as she disappeared through the door, the bell chiming softly behind her. I stayed seated, staring at the empty chair across from me, letting the quiet wash over me. Mia's voice echoed in my head, the words she had said months ago, "You're stronger than you think." I realized she was right. I wasn't broken anymore. I wasn't desperate to fix what couldn't be fixed. I wasn't begging for apologies or explanations. I had reclaimed myself, piece by piece, memory by memory. I sipped my coffee, the warmth spreading through my hands. The storm that had raged inside me for months was finally quieting, leaving only a calm I hadn't felt in a long time. For the first time I allowed myself to smile, not a small, forced one but a real smile. One that came from knowing I had survived, that I had endured, and that I had grown stronger because of everything Lena had done. The city outside the cafe moved on without her, without the past haunting my steps. And I realized that I could too. I left a few bills on the table, stood, and walked out into the crisp evening air. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and violet. The wind carried the faint scent of rain and possibility. As I walked down the empty streets, I felt an unfamiliar lightness. The burden of what had been was finally gone. Lena's face flickered in my mind one last time, not as a source of pain, but as a reminder that I had endured, and that I could survive anything. I knew she would continue her journey, and I would continue mine. And for the first time the two paths didn't need to intersect. A soft smile tugged at my lips. I felt complete, not with her, not because of her, but in spite of everything we had shared. The world didn't feel threatening anymore. It felt wide, open, full of possibilities I hadn't noticed before. I had learned to let go without anger, to release someone without hatred. And that felt like freedom. I turned a corner, stepping into a quiet park. The trees swayed gently in the breeze, leaves brushing against each other in a soft, rustling song. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of the past lift further. "You're free," I whispered to myself, and I meant it. I opened my eyes and continued walking, one steady step at a time, toward the life I had reclaimed. The sun dipped lower, bathing the streets in golden light, and I knew I was finally ready for whatever came next. Not as the man who had lost everything, but as the man who had learned to let go. The man who had found peace within himself. And for the first time in months I felt truly alive. The hill was quiet when I arrived, the city stretching below in a sea of glowing lights. I leaned against the railing, letting the chill of the evening air brush my face. My mind wandered over the months that had passed. Months that had slowly rebuilt me from the ruins Lena left behind. "You made it out here early," Julia's voice said behind me. She had a warm smile, the kind that made the world feel softer. "I needed some time," I admitted. My hands were tucked into my pockets, and for the first time in weeks I felt calm. "Time to think, to breathe." She nodded, stepping closer. "I get it. Sometimes you just need space to see the bigger picture." I glanced at her, feeling a strange sense of gratitude. "You've been a quiet strength through all this. I don't know if I ever told you that." Julia smiled softly. "I think you're starting to see your own strength, Elias. I just helped you notice it." I let out a short laugh, almost in disbelief. "Strength? I didn't know I had any left after everything." "You did," she said. "It was there the whole time. You just had to survive long enough to find it again." I turned my gaze back to the city lights, thinking of Lena. The lies, the betrayal, the heartbreak, they all flashed in my mind like lightning over a dark sky. But this time, instead of pain, I felt perspective. I whispered to myself, almost like a mantra, "She didn't break me. She shaped me." Julia leaned against the railing beside me, quiet. I felt no pressure, no judgment, just a calm presence that somehow made the memory of her, Lena, feel less heavy. "Do you ever think about her?" Julia asked gently. I nodded. "Every day at first. But now, I think about what I've learned. What I've become. That's more important than what she did." Julia smiled, nudging my shoulder lightly. "See? You're changing. You're not the same broken man who sat alone in his apartment months ago." I chuckled softly, the sound feeling foreign to my own ears. "No, I'm not. I can feel it." Something inside me shifted. "Pain can teach you things you don't want to learn, but sometimes it makes you stronger." She nodded, her expression serious yet warm. "Exactly. And you're walking through it, Elias. Step by step, not running from it." The wind picked up, rustling the leaves on the trees around us. I closed my eyes, letting it brush over me, carrying away the last remnants of fear and doubt. "Do you think you're ready?" Julia asked, breaking the silence. "Ready for what?" I opened my eyes, looking at her. "For life. For everything beyond this hill. Beyond the pain." I thought for a moment, feeling the weight of her question. And then I realized I was. I think I am, I said firmly. I'm done looking back. I'm done letting the past define me. I'm ready to move forward. Julia smiled, her eyes sparkling in the dim light. Good. Because the future doesn't wait for anyone. You've got to step into it. I nodded, a feeling of determination settling over me. I will. And thank you for being part of this, even if you didn't see it that way. You've always had it inside you, Elias, she said softly. I just reminded you. We stood together in silence for a while, letting the city lights and the night calm our thoughts. Then from behind I heard a familiar voice, light, teasing yet proud. Finally seeing some sense, big brother? I turned to see Mia climbing the hill, her hands on her hips, a grin on her face. She looked at me, eyes wide and warm. You look different, calmer, stronger, and dare I say, happier? I laughed, a real genuine laugh this time. I guess I am. Mia stepped closer, nudging my arm. You've been through a storm, Elias. And now, you're finally standing in the sunlight. I shook my head, smiling. You have no idea how much that means to hear from you. You always kept me grounded even when I wanted to give up. She smiled softly, her usual teasing replaced by sincere pride. That's what family does. But honestly, I'm proud of you. You rebuilt yourself when everything fell apart. That's something most people can't do. I let the praise sink in, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the evening air. Thanks, Mia. That really means a lot. We looked at the city together, the lights shimmering like stars reflected on the river. For the first time, I felt fully present in the moment, not haunted by the past, not anxious about what came next, but standing firmly in my own strength. You know, Mia said, Lena doesn't get to define your story anymore. She's a chapter, nothing more. The next chapters are yours. I nodded, a quiet resolve settling in me. Yes, the next chapters are mine. And I intend to write them with everything I've learned. Julia squeezed my shoulder lightly. And I'll be here to watch you grow if you let me. I smiled, feeling a sense of peace I hadn't known in months. I'd like that. I really would. The wind shifted again, bringing with it the faint scent of rain on dry earth, fresh and renewing. I inhaled deeply, feeling like I was breathing in not just air but possibility. The past, the lies, the betrayal, the heartbreak, it no longer held power over me. I whispered again, this time with conviction. She didn't break me. She shaped me. And now, I choose who I am. Mia nudged me gently. Come on, big brother. Let's walk down. The city won't admire itself, you know. I chuckled, feeling the weight of the past lift completely from my shoulders. Lead the way. We walked down the hill together, the city lights glowing around us, warm and inviting. Each step felt lighter than the last, as though the ground itself celebrated the freedom I had earned. Where to first? Julia asked, walking beside us. I smiled at both of them. Forward. Always forward. No looking back. And for the first time in a long while, I believed it. The future wasn't scary. It wasn't haunted by what I had lost. It was wide open, waiting for me to step into it fully, confidently. I glanced at the glowing skyline, the promise of sunrise hidden somewhere beyond the horizon. And I knew, without a doubt, that I was ready. Not as the man who had been betrayed. Not as the man who had been broken. But as the man who had rebuilt himself from the ruins. Finally whole, finally free, and finally alive. The wind carried a gentle hush over us, the city sparkling like a canvas waiting to be painted. And I knew this was just the beginning.